Okay, just by way of introduction, thanks again for everyone jumping into 10X Live and being on these panels. Eve is an organizational psychologist. You'll see that her last name, I introduced her as Eve Northmore. She's also my wife, so she's upstairs in this house as we're filming this. But I brought Eve onto this panel because she works with a lead generation company that specializes for financial advisors. They have about 5,000 advisors that they work with that are in that network, and they specifically use YouTube for generating business. So I'm brought in Eve to talk about that. Matt Curry, we just learned a lot from Matt Curry. So as we know, Matt Curry is the founder of Outflow. Adam Ray, Adam is the owner and founder of BizNexus. So BizNexus is an M&A platform. They have about 7,000 active deals in that platform. The business started and about 10 billion in combined deal revenue. I highly suggest going to biznexus.com to check out the site for anyone that's in our space and signing up to his email list. So BizNexus origins were in Concierge, kind of finding deals and curating deals for buyers. And that's a lot of what they currently do. So going to be great to have you on the panel to talk about lead generation. Jason Hunt, Jason's the founder of Merge Marketing and the host of Merge Marketing podcast. And so they are an award-winning SEO and content marketing experts. He has a team of 20 people, and what their team specifically does is take businesses that have yet to make that transition into the digital marketplace and bring their brand online digitally. So welcome everybody, and happy to have you on the panel here today. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hi. Don't worry about turning your mics off. I think it'll be fine. And if you want to keep them on, we can just have the discussion. But the big thing that we're trying to pull out of this panel for attendees is, all right, what are the big things that are being done right now to generate leads in this new marketplace and as things move digitally? And so I'm going to start the question. I'm going to start to the panel, and maybe Jason, I'll start with you. What are the big changes you've seen in the last few years as things kind of move digitally?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's obviously apparent to everybody is the amount of noise that is in their news feeds on social media, on Google Ads. There's a lot of noise out there. So the biggest challenge for a lot of marketers now is differentiating themselves from all the competitors out there and the noise. So, and also taking advantage of the opportunities that lie out there on digital. Obviously a lot of businesses are pretty archaic and still relying on traditional and have not conformed. And it's kind of the same thing I've been saying since 2016. But finally, I think the pandemic sort of amplified everything. And now everybody understands the need. And for us, I mean, we helped a landscape company grow from 200,000 a year who was not using much digital at all and just relying on straight referrals to 1.3 mil. And a lot of that was from the use of SEO, being found on Google, and social media marketing.
So then if that's the biggest challenge, kind of breaking through the noise, and I can guarantee all of our attendees and even ourselves putting this summit together, like cracking through the noise that's out there with the amount of stuff that just gets put on social every single day. What would the suggestions you would have for people to really break through those, break through the clutter and the chatter?
So one of the best ways to do it is obviously providing upfront value. So one of the strategies we've been deploying quite a bit for clients in 2021 is using lead magnets. And I think we might get into this later on in this chat, but it's a great way to provide that upfront value and use a platform like Facebook and Instagram to get them off of Facebook and Instagram and over to your email, where you have full control over that list and you could sell to them at your will.
Great. Adam, you want to chime in at all on kind of breaking through the noise and what your thoughts are?
Let me unmute there. No problem, Scott. Just to clarify, this audience is advisors and owners that we're speaking to, or mainly advisors?
This morning is just advisors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gotten noisy, right? It's gotten very noisy. I think Jason's spot on. And it was ridiculous for a while there when the pandemic first hit. Social kind of became a cesspool. I think LinkedIn has definitely cleaned up over the past 6 months, but for a while it was just, it wasn't a great spot for developing a relationship as much as getting into a relationship early and identifying those key prospects. But for me, I think for intermediaries, their big advantage is that they're in this for the long game, right? There are so many new buyers in the market, search funders, fundless sponsors who are out there, and they're dropping a 3 email drip in LEM list, and they're firing away to a list of 5,000 people or whatever they're doing. That has gotten so much more noisy over the past 12 to 18 months than it was previously. So if you don't have a system in place for staying in front of those prospects over time, you're missing out on a huge differentiator, because intermediaries are in this for the long game. They're in this for multiple transactions over time. So I think that's really important. Like, yes, you have to nail that outreach, but after that, you better have a process in place that's effective for nurturing and capturing. And the only other thing I'd say is, don't just go after your end target prospects. Make sure you're leveraging referral prospects. There are a lot of different ways to do that, but make sure you have a system in place.
What is, like, for you guys, what would your suggestion be on the nurturing? And maybe Adam, you can keep kind of carrying on, and then we'll reach the rest of the group on that question as well. But, you know, if I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure, I have the direct outreach and then I need to nurture afterwards, what does that actually look like from a tactical perspective?
Yeah, I think towards the bottom of the funnel, it's different for everybody. You want to play to your strengths. With automating the nurturing process, have a newsletter in place, right? So if you're reaching out to your end target business owner, let's say you're going after an HVAC company, and you're going after your referral prospects, ideally you're getting them all into a newsletter list. So once a month, once a week, however much time you have or what kind of support team you have in place to help with the newsletter, they're seeing your brand. And every newsletter should have a clear call to action, schedule your free evaluation, let's chat about your exit plans, whatever it is. They should see your brand with a clear call to action that makes it very easy for them to reach out when they're actually ready, right? The nurturing piece is just to educate them about who you are, what you do, how your solutions solve their pain points, make them comfortable, warm and fuzzy with who you are, right? So they know that this person is a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale. I feel like I can have a conversation about how I'm going to value this asset that I've been building for the past 30 years. That is extremely confidential. Like, this is something where you have to win that trust over time, and getting in front of them is absolutely important, but staying in front of them is more important if you're going to actually land that transaction, especially once you get out of Main Street and you get up into the lower middle market, because those transactions are planned well in advance. It's very rare that you're going to have somebody who is pressured into a sale because of a divorce or some sort of health consideration, like you do more often in Main Street.
Mm-hmm. Matt, do you kind of echo that? Like, what are you thinking about methods for staying in front of the client after you've done that direct outreach?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the biggest thing that we actually preach on with our clients. Like, so there's two ways there's kind of two processes when it comes to closing transactions. There's opportunity capturing and opportunity progression. To be honest, opportunity capturing is kind of easy. Like, it's easy to get in front of people these days. Like you guys all alluded to, like, it's easy to get in front of them, fairly easy to get on the phone and have that conversation. Opportunity progression is the long haul. Like, that's what you need to do. You need to be nurturing, and time doesn't kill deals. It's time without activity that kills deals. So everyone's at different phases, right? When you have that dialogue with them, like, some might be ready to exit in the next, like I said, 12 months, maybe some 12 days, depending on where they're at. You need to understand, like, what does that follow-up look like? And like what Adam talked about on the nurturing side, like, that's one thing we're doing at Outflow now. Like, I'm just going to talk selfishly about us. Like, that's what I'm doing. Like I said, what is the one activity I can do that will not drive any ROI for the next 3 years that will make the biggest impact to the company? And it was building a brand. And Scott, you see all of our stuff, like, every single week we're pushing out video content, we're pushing out information and bringing it back to the advisors. When they see this information, they're going to see you in the light of, like, the most verifiable, credible expert positioned in their eyes for when they are ready to exit or when they're ready to take that next step.
Yeah, I mean, I take a deep breath because I know advisors, when they're listening, it is the big piece of building the brand and kind of getting yourself out there. But it's a lot of work, right? So, and maybe, I don't know, maybe talk to that. Like, how is it that, and what advice do you have for your clients that it's, hey, you're almost taking on a new job? It's got to be something that people are thinking on this call. It's like, geez, sure, I'm doing my own work right now, getting deals done.
Yeah. Do you want me to go? Is that what you're
Sure,
asking?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, like, look, that's with me too. Like, one thing right off the bat that Jason talked about was like keeping it simple, because there's so much noise. And that's what we've been doing since day one. Like, that's one of our core values, is like, keep it simple. I hate complexity. I keep things incredibly simple. And for me, Scott, you said, like, hey, you have some pretty good writing. Like, where'd you learn to write? I said, in fact, I hate it. That's why I don't do my content with writing. Because I might be good at it, but I sit down, I go to write. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. So guess what I do? I get on Loom or I get on Zoom and I record a video of me just talking. Okay. Literally, you pick a topic and you talk about it. And then I take it, I write a very short, 100 word email, and I send it to my list every single month or week. Done.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. It's still, I mean, it's kind of cracking that barrier. Jason, one of the, and thanks, Matt, because I think that's, if you find something, the tidbit out of that is find something that's easy for you. And then there's less friction for doing it. And then use that medium. Yeah. Jason, what are the mediums you use? And then I'm going to ask you a question from Roxanne that's out of the chat box here, because it's in your wheelhouse. But you've done is podcasting. And I think when I counted, it's something you're almost close to cracking 100 in the last year and a bit. Maybe speak to people that experience and how you do that, because I think it's quite effective. It's how we were connected.
Yeah. So when we started our podcast, it was right before the pandemic hit in February 2020, and we're creeping up to 100 episodes now. It's been one of the best things for our business, and you don't see direct ROI, or at least we don't, from our podcast. I interview people that I think could be potential prospects, but also people we could bridge great relationships with and maybe open up referral networks and things like that. But that's one side of it. Another side of it is the value that we're bringing to our audience, and obviously our audience are entrepreneurs, small business owners, and we're providing value through the content that we're creating in these podcast episodes. And we're creating the podcast episode, we're capturing video content of it, we're going live with it, and it's going on all of our social channels. We're cutting up 30-second clips, creating Facebook ads, which are creating our top of funnel sort of audiences. So once somebody watches 10 seconds of one of our podcast clips, they're now into our ecosystem. And from there, we're pushing them over to our blog. We're not even asking them for a consultation until they've watched the podcast, listened to the podcast, hit our blog, and then it's a consult. And I think that's so important, because we've done a lot of lead gen, cold lead gen on Facebook. And a lot of people out there that have done lead gen on Facebook to a cold audience know the leads are not that good. They're pretty crap. So, but I think what's important to note is the customer journey on how they found you in the first place. And the leads that come in through our ecosystem that I just explained, they're just great leads, and not just great leads, but we also have a longer leash with them as clients. These clients are with us for a very long time because we've already built up that know, like, and trustability, which is so important. And that's why the podcast, even though you don't see that direct ROI right away, it contributes to the whole entire brand and the success of our brand.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that the pull out from there is that if you guys are, you're doing the podcast, it's creating these snippets of content, and then you can share it. So it's because it's being divided up, it's not taking as much of your time in creating, it basically covers multiple pieces at the same time.
What's awesome about it is we'll do it in a way where we'll have a podcast clip specifically, for example, Scott, your episode will be targeting people that may be looking to sell their business, which will be a great audience for us. And each podcast episode is geared towards a certain type of entrepreneur, which is important as well, because the closer you can marry that message to the person seeing it, the better conversions you're going to get.
For sure. I'm going to come back to you with an SEO question, but I'm going to jump over to Eve because it's kind of, we're on the same topic right now. Eve, you've been working with actually for the past year with financial advisors, helping them, and wealth planners, helping them build out their YouTube channel and other mediums for getting their content out there. What were you seeing as the biggest struggle for advisors kind of moving into that new ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. I can actually echo onto kind of what Jason's doing and what he's doing that's going to ending up being really successful for him, which is consistency on a platform. Mm-hmm. So whether it's podcasting, whether it's YouTube, we do LinkedIn is really big for us, whether it's Facebook, it's just being consistent over time, whether it's that email campaign, it's like making sure those emails are going out. If you say every week, do them every week. If it's every month, it's every month, but you really need to just hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. Like Gary Vee, it's like jab, 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 jab. And the biggest misconception that we see is that people think, oh, I'm going to launch my YouTube channel, I'm going to launch my podcast, and all of a sudden I'm just going to get so many clients, and my funnel is going to be full, and it's going to be fantastic. But it takes a lot of time, and it takes a really long time to really refine your message. And I think doing these exercises, whether it's podcasting, whether it's doing webinars, writing to people every week, YouTube every week, that's a really good exercise to do that. And if you just keep on it, then you'll get it. But a lot of people give up. They're like, oh, well, it's been 3 months and I only have 10 followers, so I guess it's not hitting. Like sometimes it takes years.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's what you found with some of your advisors, is that they're into before they actually crack through, they're into the years of putting content out there. But like Jason just said, it's okay. You may not see an immediate ROI on it, but it really in the background, it's building your brand and credibility. And
Big
then
time.
Matt in his presentation was speaking about this is exercise. It's like you're not gonna you're gonna lose weight like not exercising every single day. It's you got to make those 15 messages every single day on LinkedIn. And by the way, for this event, we got not banned, but we got blocked 3 times because of sending out too many messages. So we found that limit, and it was around 15. And if we sent out 40 in a day or 100 in a day, it was like we got smacked. So if you stick to that 10 to 15, I think was the sweet spot. Jason, just coming back to you, because Roxanne asked about, we'll be talking about SEO, meta content, on-site, off-site at all. And maybe just speak a little bit of SEO, because it's a big thing that you guys do. And I know, it's, it can be quite nuanced and you can get really granular about it, but perhaps just for this, top high level, what people should be doing.
No, thank you for that, because although I know a very surface level of SEO, I partnered my business with a business that's really, really good at it. So my business partner, Todd Foster, is an expert in SEO. But in terms of SEO, and I don't want to I don't want to miss a great point that Eve said, because it is kind of relevant to SEO as well. And that is, the consistency and deploying patience. And much with any sort of direction you go with your digital, you do have to deploy that patience. And SEO is the same. You're not going to get results overnight with SEO, but there's some things you can do in terms of the due diligence on your website that can put your website in a position to be ranking 6 months down the road. And there was a Google Core Vitals update that happened a few months back, which Google likes to shake things up every now and again. And a few of the big things were user experience on your website, which has become paramount for Google now. So your site needs to obviously load fast. It always did, but now Google is prioritizing that as one of the key things. That's a signal to decipher whether a user is having a good experience on your website. And another one as well is pop-ups. Google does not like intrusive pop-ups on a website. So those are a couple things you can fix pretty quickly. And there's some sites out there. One's called GT Metrics. If you want to see your page speed score, that'll give you a good idea as to how quickly your site loads. And more importantly, some people out there still don't have a mobile optimized site. That is so important, more now than ever. So making sure your site is a good experience on mobile is super important.
Yeah, even myself, I find myself on mobile so much more, and especially that the iPhones the screens are bigger, so you just end up using it because there's less friction. It's in your pocket, so away you go.
A lot of the traffic hitting your website is coming from social media, and majority of social media users are on mobile. So,
for sure. Kind of switching back more to the direct outreach and lead gen. Maybe Adam, you can speak a bit to the common mistakes that people would be making when they're doing that direct outreach. Is there anything that you would have advice-wise for that?
So with direct outreach, with the first approach?
Yeah, maybe that top end of the funnel that you guys are doing. And same with Matt as well. That's kind of where you guys live.
Yeah, I think Matt kind of nailed it, right? So the first approach, if you're checking the appropriate boxes, that should be somewhat plug and play. It's staying in front of them over time and capturing them. That's where you're really going to differentiate yourself as an advisor. But for that initial outreach, the main thing for us that we really focus on is starting with data. And that's not just a catchphrase. It's like you have, if you're a regionally focused business broker, for example, right, there's a finite amount of end target business owners in your territory. Who are they, right? With your targeting, identify who they are, right? What's the company head count? I missed Matt's presentation on Sales Navigator, but I'm guessing it probably covered a lot of this, where you're just trying to bogey in on who's a business owner, who's likely to be in a position to be thinking about an exit. Whether they are or not, you can't tell, but you can identify the metrics that are going to target that end business owner who should be thinking about this. Get that list together and make sure that you have all of the relevant data across multiple channels. That's the biggest mistake that we see, if people aren't doing proper multi-channel campaigns. So if LinkedIn is your thing, great. If email is your thing, great. Phone, snail mail, those are the 4 things at the top of the funnel that we see working really well. I'll repeat those: snail mail, phone, LinkedIn, email. Those are the best, outreach sniping weapons. So you make sure that you have all of that data in whatever spreadsheet you're starting with, and so that you can run that multi-channel campaign over time. And then, I think for that first outreach, we really do break deal origination down into those two different phases, right? There's that first approach where you want to get right in front of them. You don't want to burn your brand. That's the biggest risk, is burning your brand, so that you won't ultimately get that transaction, because you do have to do that, everything that Eve is saying, that Jason's saying, where you're podcasting and you're doing webinars to build up trust, to build yourself up as a qualified authority. Don't burn that on your first approach by being overly salesy. You definitely want to get in front of them, let them know who you are, what you do, see if you can get that hook in, to see if it's time to get that meeting. We call it the proverbial cup of coffee, whether it's actually sitting down with them, or depending on where you are in this country right now, maybe that's not an option. Maybe it's just a Zoom call, but getting that call. And if it's not time, you want to make sure that that message is hitting the desired eyeballs, right? So if you're sending that first message, make sure you're using a tool where you can resend that first approach to the people who haven't opened it, right? So that your end target business owner is seeing that value proposition message at least once. You don't want to run that first outreach and not track that, and then drop them into whatever nurturing program you have. So that's the outreach piece. The one thing that I would like to just kind of go back on with the nurturing, everything that Jason and Eve are saying, and Matt with that nurturing, it's spot on. It's changing fast, and once you get to the bottom of the funnel, focusing on what you're good at is so important. With us, making sure that you have all this in a CRM where you're tracking this activity, so that you can pick up the phone and know when to make that old-fashioned sales call. The approach is critical, right? So if someone's visiting your sell a business page multiple times, you should know that whatever CRM you're using should set you up with an alert, with a task, so that you can check them out and say, well, this is John Doe business owner, and he's been running this manufacturing company for 30 years. That ideally is in your CRM. So you're getting that alert. So that's not you doing the legwork. If you set it up appropriately, you're getting a sales task for a call at the bottom of the funnel, when you know that someone who's been engaged with your content, who's been checking out your webinar or listening to your podcast, they feel like they already know you. They know what you're offering. They trust you. If they're calling in, that you don't want to miss that. And so making sure that you're set up for that from an automation standpoint is really important. And very, very few intermediaries still do that today. The industry is behind, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're part of the afternoon. We are showcasing some CRM software, but regardless, you need to have something so you can track how many times they've been to your website and how many touches are there. And you're just going to know if they're more interested, and you're going to have qualified that lead. When you speak about starting with data, what does that actually mean, like, for the attendees?
Everyone starts with a list. Maybe you signed on with a franchise and they give you a list of your territories as part of what you signed up for, part of what you're paying for. Hopefully that list is complete, right? You have a phone number, you have an email, you have a LinkedIn, you have a Twitter, you have a Facebook, you have company URL, company description, everything. If it's not, there are data enrichment and platforms that you can set up integrations, right? So you can check out something like Hunter.io, you can check out Voila Norbert. If you sync those up with something like Google Sheet, then the data will get enriched over time. Enriched means you're getting more information on your prospect. So, whether you're running a multi-channel campaign based on that, or whether it's just helpful when you actually make the call, when you click in on John Doe business owner and you're in your CRM, you see a whole bunch of information. You see, maybe their latest Twitter post, or their latest LinkedIn post, or you see their company description. That's going to arm you with what you need to make a valuable sales call. That's the data enrichment. A lot of CRMs will already have these integration partnerships in place. Like HubSpot has a ton. If you put in an email in HubSpot, check it 24 hours later, you're probably gonna have a lot more data, right? Some of the company revenue data might be garbage, but there's a lot of valuable stuff there. It just automatically enriches the data on your prospect, and that's free.
Yeah. It's all work, eh?
Ideally, it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And if the platform's doing it for you, then you're not doing the work.
For sure. Yeah. Matt, what are your thoughts on that question? I'll bring it back again, because it was a while since I asked Adam. Thanks, Adam, that's a ton of information. That's amazing. As far as what people are doing wrong in that initial outreach, like what kind of mistakes are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, Adam touched on a lot of great stuff there. I guess one piece I would add or elaborate on is going back to what I said in the presentation, which is creating white space. Like, get uncomfortably focused with the target ideal client profile you want to get in front of. I mean, Jason just said he runs Facebook ads. Like, let's say there's a podcast with you. He's going to get uncomfortably focused running Facebook ads with that audience that matches what you do. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter what medium you're in. There now comes a point where who you are for is more important than what you got. People need to know that you have depth and range of experience, you're credible, you have a good track record, you're positioned in the eyes as an expert authority in their space, right? Not only on the outreach is that going to help you, but it comes back to then the conversation you have with them. It's going to make that conversation so much smoother, that much faster. Like, you know, sometimes these cold conversations, like we're a cold monster. You know what I mean? Like, our business was built like from me sitting in Tim Hortons. For all of you that don't know where Tim Hortons is and you're all in the US, it's a little coffee shop. Okay. It's like Dunkin' Donuts. And I was sitting there cold calling, right? That's where we started, and we're still doing that, right? We eat our own cooking. And I had to have a very sharp message to a specific audience. And we now need, like, no matter what medium you're using, you've got to have that white space and be uncomfortably focused there. And then here's another one that might be slightly controversial, which is you just have to run larger numbers at some point, guys.
Yeah.
Like, the numbers become the numbers. And like big organizations know this, like these big solar companies and stuff. They're just like, hey, I hire 100 kids to knock on doors. I know this is the ratios. I just got to hire more kids.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh my God. Now they want to do training, but they're not like, hey, how do I optimize this one individual to, like, rather than for every 100 doors they knock, they get one sale to like 1.2. Yes, that's good in the long run, but they're like, hey, like we just got to run larger numbers here. So at some point you have to run larger numbers, and guess what? That might come from the back end through the nurturing. It might come from the different touch points and how you follow with the prospects. So it's not just the front end, it's also the back end as well.
Yeah, the bigger numbers it takes a little bit of, I understand that's controversial because, like, oh, you know, what's the message that's going to reach that? But going back to the LinkedIn, it's like the bigger numbers can be that connecting every day. And then what we found is with people that did connect with us, then you now have someone that put their hand up and said, I'm interested. And you can have a more targeted conversation with them. And like you said, you can have a Loom video that goes to them after you've had a little bit of a dialogue. But it's that you still have to do that big sweep at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. So here's a question I have that I'll probably ask each person in the group is, like, what methods of marketing are you seeing land the most client engagements? And maybe I'll just kind of start from where I'm at on the screen and kind of move down. So Jason, what are you seeing the most successful for client engagements, kind of getting people on the phone?
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, and I spoke a bit about this already, but it really is that lead magnet to nurture sequence, which is working really, really well in tons of different industries. You know, we're a great example of top of mind right now. There's one we're running for a realtor in Guelph, and it's driving traffic from Toronto, people, first-time home buyers, you know, engaging them in the Guelph community and understanding Guelph and reasons why to move to Guelph. Yeah. And for those in the States, that's in Ontario here. And I think like that is a great example, but we're running that for SaaS products as well. But the content behind that lead magnet is nothing salesy at all. It's hitting a pain point that matters a lot to that user. And it's basically filtering people out off of the platforms and only getting people in your ecosystem that pain point, that they understand they have that pain point. There's several different types of awareness on when you create these lead magnets, you know, whether they're unaware, maybe they don't know they have a problem yet. So that lead magnet needs to pinpoint that problem. And then there's the most aware. Maybe they are aware they have a problem and they just don't know you have the solution yet. So there's tons of different ways to develop that lead magnet, but that strategy to drive them in there and put them through that nurture sequence, where that we do a 4-step nurture sequence. And in step 2, it's providing more value, much like what Yves said earlier on, the Gary V jab, 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 right hook, you know, providing that value. And then maybe a Calendly link in that 4th email. And that Calendly link, maybe they might book, maybe they might not. But this whole strategy we call the icebreaker strategy, because after they receive those 4 emails, we encourage our clients to give those prospects a call, because that conversation is not a cold call. It's a very warm call. You've provided all this upfront value. They know who you are. And now it's a simple conversation, and you have a conversation starter, which is that lead magnet. And that's the strategy that we're encouraging our clients to take. And it's working really, really well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Jason. And that, Yves, what are you seeing for your advisors that you're working with, the ones that are gaining traction? What What are they using?
Yeah, a lot of them are using LinkedIn and direct outreach. So using Sales Navigator, which is similar to running an email campaign, connecting with people directly in a really targeted, well thought out email, refining their profile so that it really hits their marketplace. And then from there, it's like consistent outreach and consistent content. There was a study that was done that was on kind of like email opening and when you got like the actual lead activated. And on the first outreach, it was like 18% success, but on the sixth outreach, it's actually 23% success. And I think this study's a couple years old, but still it was like you're hitting. And then even by like the sixth, you're getting a higher intake than you would on the first attempt. And then it kept going from there. I think the seventh was like 17%. So I think people really get dejected, but it's okay. Reach out to them, get their email, use that lead magnet, get them in your funnel, and then just communicate. And then, like Jason says, it's like at some point in there, it's like, here's our calendar link. Why don't you set up a call for us? And it might be that fourth, fifth, sixth time that they actually buy in.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. It's the multiple touch points is what's coming out on this call that is so important, right? After you source that lead, whether it be however you do it, whether it's through data, it's through LinkedIn, it's like then continually messaging and continually touching, but not in a salesy way. That was the biggest thing that we were worried about with this event, because we had a window for marketing this event of a month, and I was nervous that we were a little bit salesy in the upfront, just to kind of get people to commit, because you really want more of those touch points, and we're just short on time. But if you're playing the long game, which as wealth planners, financial planners, M&A advisors, exit planners, we are in the long game. So you have more of a window to have all those touch points, which is good. Adam, what are you seeing is most effective for landing those engagements? Kind of getting call it like a little bit further down and getting somebody on the phone,
Yeah. I will never promise an engagement. There are agencies out there that are going to go out there and promise transactions. And I mean, maybe a sit down is one thing, but an engagement, it's just that it comes down to the advisors. You're going to have to put your sales hat on, right? It comes down to that cup of coffee and making the call, and to take a page out of Matt's book and sitting down and making the calls. I mean, that was my background. I love that. I've had to force myself to be smarter about when I'm actually getting on the phone, and that's through automating the top of the funnel and making sure I'm hopping on towards the bottom of the funnel. One thing I will say with this, with getting the cup of coffee, right? With getting that call, that sit down with a business owner who's actually ready to talk about their exit plans, or how they're going to value the most valuable asset in their life. And that's not getting people to sign up for a 10X live conference, right? It's a very, very different conversion. It's a different win. So just focusing on value, really focusing on value, putting that out there, making sure that they see you as someone, hopefully you're trustworthy, right? That'll come across. And if you're conveying that, that's just increasingly important in this world that we're in, because it's so noisy. Making sure that you're putting that out there, but then making sure that it's all tracked again. So and by tracked, I mean, like for 10X live, you get somebody to sign up. Great. That's a win. That's not always going to happen with a Calendly link or a landing page or a form fill with business acquisition and sale. So even if you're sending out a newsletter and they're not opening it, but they see your name and your brand, you're still reinforcing this is who you are and it's what you do. That's valuable over time. And then you want to make it easy for them to reach out with, whether that is a Calendly link or just your phone number, so they can pick up the phone and call you. But relying on just with business acquisition, business sale, it's a one-time transaction. Tailoring your marketing to that to make sure that if someone is opening that email multiple times, well, that should be a sales task. It doesn't have to be a reply. It should be, hey, this business owner keeps opening this email. They're either really pissed off or they might be interested. I should reach out. Yeah,
for sure. It's you're absolutely right. And we've tried. I mean, I feel like I've tried everything and thrown stuff against the wall, and a lot of it's failed, especially in this industry where if you're, exit planner, you're dealing with someone's wealth, this is a huge piece of their life, and they're not going to put it in the hands of somebody they don't trust. So you are not going to convert off of a single web page that goes lead magnet straight to call. And we've tried. They need more nurturing in between. So it's you're preaching to the choir to me, because we've tried and failed the other way. So I think the advice is sound that you're giving.
Scott, you're doing CRMs later today.
Yeah, we do have some CRM stuff later today. Yeah.
For me, what we've used personally internally, that works really well, especially in this industry, is just proper lead scoring, right? Yes. So if you 1 to 100, certain activities will add numbers. If your lead hits an 80, you get a sales task, that kind of thing. So digging into whoever the experts are with the CRM, we found that really, really valuable internally here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, then you have to have, this is the thing, it takes how long did it take you to set that up actually? Like, what should people be expecting to set that system up? Because it's not an overnight switch.
It's not an overnight switch. So,
no.
I mean, that's why a lot of these CRMs will lock you in for a year, and rightfully so. I used to be a huge fan of HubSpot. I still am. I just hate their pricing. Once you get volume, but for advisors, that might be a great solution, right? For us with our platform, we've got volume where the pricing just killed us. So we had to move. But once you're on a CRM and you like it, the biggest failure point for CRMs is just not using it. So if you find something that you like, usually setting up the lead scoring is pretty easy. Just, overly weight a business owner, right? If they're landing on your business for sale page, make sure that counts more. If they're, the indication, the actions that would indicate this is an interested owner, just try to lean into that, make sure that you're getting a lot of points, and that you're getting that sales task for those activities from the business owner prospect.
Adam, Steven's asking what CRM you use now after switching from HubSpot.
It's not a good one for advisors. We're on SharpSpring, which is a HubSpot alternative. It's really great for the full funnel for marketing automation. And we have some clients on it, but they're all in on marketing automation. I think most intermediaries want sales tracking, and for any of our clients, we're putting them on Pipedrive. It's very user friendly. It's a quick onboarding. It's not a steep learning curve, and there are integrations out there that allow you to do most of the stuff that I'm talking about. Pipedrive is great for the majority of advisors. If you're going to hop on it, it's cheap, easy to learn, effective, and it's a sales CRM.
We used Pipedrive for probably 2 years, and it was good for when we used it.
Yeah, they SharpSpring just got bought by Constant Contact, and Pipedrive has an email integration that's going live, I think, earlier in the year. So all these things are just getting better.
Fantastic. Matt, sorry to put you at the end of the line here with the same question, but what are you seeing as far as actually getting that conversion? What would your suggestions be there, that end of the cycle?
End of the cycle. I mean, like I'll make some philosophical statements here. First of all, I mean, as we're all talking here, talking to the participants now, like, guys, all of us are saying like one word that kind of keeps coming up, which is all of us here like many and lots and tracking and this many follow-ups. So a lot of you may have heard of Grant Cardone. A lot of us probably don't like him. Maybe you love him, hate him, it doesn't matter. He talks about one statement, which is obscurity is going to be your biggest challenge, which means people don't know who you are, or worse, they forgot about you. So it's going to take touch points. Okay. It's going to take touch points. Second philosophical statement. We've heard, I don't know, some of you might think it's a corny statement, but Tony Robbins talks about clarity is power. And we talk about tracking. That's where clarity comes from. When you know what's going on, you can make decisions. If you don't track people you've talked to or keep them in a CRM, and by the way, which CRM, like just pick one. Like once you figure out how to use it, you'll eventually just, you can just adapt over time, but like just pick one and get started and start tracking. This saddens me to say in a way, but like a lot of our clients, like that's one thing we keep saying is like, hey, where's this at? How are you doing with this? And we're starting to build software to actually support them in this aspect, but is like, hey, where are the opportunities at? Oh, we forgot. Not sure. I forget. And we're starting to create more components to help them keep track of that, because at the end of the day, our mission is to help M&A professionals close more deals. So that's why we're so diligent on like, hey, how'd that conversation go and stuff like that. So you must get clarity, and the way you get clarity is through tracking. Okay. Thirdly, there's no magic bullet here. There's no silver bullet. I'll just let you guys know, like, just take a deep breath now. Okay. There's no silver bullet to like convert. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
everything is great. Everything works. Okay. Like Aaron Ross, who's from Salesforce, he helped build kind of, I guess, get to their first 300 million or something like that. Talks about 3 components to generate deal opportunities or leads: nets, seeds, spears. Nets is all the stuff that Jason's primarily been talking about by the sounds of it, which is like advertising, getting out there, generating, putting out lead magnets to capture information and nurturing them, right? So that's advertising. Seeds is referrals. It's you planting and sowing seeds in the marketplace. Like, this is technically a seed/net mixture, like this right here, what we're doing here. So it's relationship building, referrals, centers of influence, and referral source development, things like that. And over time, those opportunities flow to you, and those conversations you have over time end up converting. And then lastly is our bread and butter, which is spears, which is direct outreach. Yes, I'm biased. I love this because it's controllable, it's repeatable, and it's scalable.
Yep.
I can control when I want to get a conversation, right? Again, going back to Tim Hortons 101. I had a number, I had a name. Hopefully my data enrichment was good at them, and I made a call. Right. And I made that call and I got people on the phone. I could control my deal flow, right? I can control immediate activity without having to put a bunch of money behind it. And by the way, guys, everything has like a lead magnet in its own way, right? And it's all about how do you execute on it. So cold outreach, my lead magnet for advisors, I'm talking to you, the advisors right now, which is a lead magnet could just be, hey, I'm happy to share some insights around what valuations look like in the fintech space. That's a lead magnet. That is an easy thing to say yes to. It's valuable, it's relevant, and it's leverage, meaning I have some insight you might want to have a conversation around. Not, hey, are you ready to exit? Do you want to get on a call to see if I can help you? That's not normal. You have to look at dialogues with people in the way of dating and marriage. I don't walk up to a person on the street and go, hey, I really like you. I'm going to go to Hawaii next week. Do you want to come with me? They're going to go, who are you? Get away from me. I'm calling the police, right? So you have to think about that in every single thing. When it comes to cold outreach, let them know who you are, what you do, how you can help them, and you have some information that you want to share with them that might be valuable over a conversation. Do you want to talk? From there, then that's when detail creep starts to happen. Then the next conversation might be understanding what they're doing, what you do, kind of how that fits in, sharing the dialogue. What is the next logical step in the conversation from there for you to take? They might be like, hey, you know what? Me and my wife sat down. It's funny you reached out. Last month, we sat down. We're actually tired. We're ready to wrap up. What do things look like? What does this look like? That's detail creep away. You know what I mean? Start taking the conversation faster. Some of them might not be ready. Well, we haven't really thought about it. We're only 3 years old. We kind of look at it in like a 5-year window, and then you can start giving them insight to keep that dialogue going. So I kind of talked a lot here. I kind of want to get philosophical. I wanted to get granular. So that's kind of what I have on the take of getting engagements.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. That's killer. And by the way, all of these sessions are being recorded, so they're in the BizNexus membership area if they want to loop back and look at anything. But I believe it's our mission, it's our job as exit planners, M&A advisors, whatever it is, where our career is. It's to get better at this direct outreach and then the nurture process. And I'm in no way an expert at it. Like, this event that we're running right now is, cutting our teeth to get a little bit better at this whole thing, because it's the only way that we're actually going to get in front of owners. And the owners there's just so much failure out there. It's absolutely brutal. And anyway, last week there was a business that they bought my course, and they ended up shutting their doors. It's a restaurant. It's a tough industry. It's a tough time for them, right? But if they'd planned, believe me, they could have made it, because other restaurants have made it through. So you need to get to them sooner. We need to get to them earlier. And I think that drip and that nurturing, and if we get, that direct outreach and they aren't ready, it's, oh yeah, no, we aren't thinking about this for 3 years. Fine. But at least they see your face for 3 more years, and you're going to be able to help them. Right. So I think it's incumbent on us to use these tools to get out in front of owners, because that's how we're actually going to make the impact. Okay. We'll throw one more question to kind of round us out here to the end of our session. It kind of comes back to lead magnets, because that's what I have here. Actually, let's throw this one out. It could be a quick one, speed round. Funnels versus websites. Jason, what's your thoughts?
That's a good one. That is a good question. Funnels versus websites. I mean, I do like funnels. I'm a little biased just because obviously, predominantly focused on Facebook, Instagram, and social media marketing. Naturally, I do like funnels. I don't think many people have the patience to navigate through a website nowadays. Time is money, and people just want the quickest route to the solution to their problem. And sometimes going through a website, people just don't have the time to do that anymore. So I'm going to go funnels.
Yeah. Eve, funnels or website?
Yeah, that is hard. I personally appreciate the simplicity of a funnel.
Yeah.
That it's just like, it's clear, it's mellow. You don't have crazy amount of information on there, where some websites can get pretty out of whack. But I would say either a funnel or a nice, simple website that's easy to navigate. It gets to the point, and it just really speaks to your customer more than just being a ton of information about you that they may not necessarily need.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Adam, what's your thoughts on that?
I think they're different things, right? So lead pages, funnels, that's great for a campaign. If you want to show that you focus on HVAC and everything that you're sending them is related to HVAC, that's effective. But again, business acquisition and sale, it's different, right? The worst thing you can do is rule yourself out of a transaction. And if you don't have a website, I mean, again, Main Street maybe, but once you get up in the middle market, if they're checking you out and you don't have a legitimate website, well, maybe you've just sold them on the idea of selling their business and they go do it with one of your competitors. I think you have to have it, especially if you're thinking of going up market.
Good, thanks. Matt, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, they're both integral. I mean, I'll give you my answer and then I'll kind of quickly tell you why. I think website, if you guys everyone should go buy the book, Story Brand by Donald Miller. That kind of like lays the context and the foundation of what you do and how you help people in a very clear, concise way. It gives them an understanding of the umbrella, and everything branches off of that. All your cold emails, your cold calls comes from that core message of what you do. But our website looks like a landing page. You guys can go check it out, outflow.agency. Click that top right-hand button that says, I want more leads. Click it and book a call with us. That's my shameless plug. But it still clearly communicates what we do. And it is kind of a landing page type style. But I would opt for a website. It has to give the core key message. And I think everything should branch off that. It shouldn't be the main thing that you do to get distracted from making a call or asking for a sale.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I mean, if you take the cross section of that panel's answer, it's that you want the information out there, you want it simplified. But I lean a little bit towards Adam, only because we've been doing a lot of funnel work, and it's part of the process. For sure, you need it, and it's really good for getting that initial contact and the lead magnet. But I think you do need a bit of a website presence as well, just to build that credibility. And so that's kind of our next thing that we're working on at post summit. Okay, we got a little bit extra time, so maybe we'll just throw it out to our audience here if there's any questions. I know there was one in here. Who do you recommend for script writing to prospects? Any suggestion there? Is that something we should be doing internally because we know our customer? I don't know. What do people think? Maybe Matt, only because you. I said that you were a good script writer before, but like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's funny. I make a joke. There's this viral Facebook post going around, like, explain terribly what you do for a living. And I send 22,500 emails to data strangers. So we write a lot of scripts. What was the question? What's the,
who do you suggest for script writing?
I mean, you can reach out to us. We're pretty good at it. It's what we do. We live, eat, breathe it. We're good writers. We're good communicators. We're good at making it simple and making sure we include your brand in there. So us, I mean, everyone talks about like I don't even pay attention. This may be a bad thing to the market of like competitors and who does what. Like I don't know other organizations that specialize in it, to be honest with you. So I couldn't tell you. I'm sure there's different like automated script writing tools and stuff coming out now too. Oh, here's one, Reggie.ai. They have like this automated script writing tool I started playing with a little bit. If you guys just want to have a software, go talk to them or reach out to us as well.
Sweet. Jason, what's your thoughts on people for writing scripts, or is this something that people should be doing in-house?
Yeah, for us, I mean, we're right across from the University of Guelph, and we're fortunate enough to hire copywriters straight from the university that are English grads. Copywriting is not my forte. That's why I have a team of experts to do it for us. They write our blogs. We also part owners of Canadian Real Estate Wealth Magazine and Real Estate Professional Magazine. So they do a lot of the writing for those magazines. But in terms of script writing, it really does sound like Matt's your guy. For us, if you're looking for blog content, and then I could be your guy for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've dabbled a little bit in getting outsourcing script stuff as well, and like you got to find someone who knows your industry, knows your sector, knows your customer, and that's the hardest thing to figure out, right? Because you can burn a lot of time and a lot of money just trying to figure that piece out with somebody who isn't in the industry. And we bumble away with our own copy right now, and you kind of do the trial and error, and then at least you have a general idea. Like you kind of chisel the block down till it gets to the point where then a professional can come in and really tighten it up. So, all right. Any other questions out there for our panelists? We're coming up on this section was going to 11:45, which is fine. There's no harm in ending it early. And then for those of you that are all the advisors that are on this call, you have access to the afternoons. The afternoons are owner sessions. So we're speaking to owners about what the major barrier is to exit. We're showing them some CRMs. We're showing them different tools to increase the value of their company. And I'm going through, which is going to be an hour and a bit presentation on essentially this checklist, which is everything you need to do to sell for 10 times. Which I'm hoping some of them can take away and kind of start going through that. But it's that is available to you guys with the ticket that you bought for this event, and you're welcome to stay around for sure. We'll end up having a little bit of a break here, and so that you can have lunch and come back. But if this was a section for Q&A, and we have our panelists here. So if there's any questions you have that are marketing related or lead gen related, this is a wealth of knowledge sitting at this table right now. All right. Dom, are we getting any other questions through the thing? If not, then we can thank our panelists, but I'll give one more round out there. Any questions that you guys have around lead gen or marketing? Toss it into the chat box there.
Yeah, you do have one in the chat here, which people could speak to. Is Saxon just wondering about sample prospecting letter aimed at a business seller? And so he's asking if people could share that, or maybe just like tips on what you would include in a prospecting letter, like that initial outreach or that initial email, that initial campaign. Maybe some of the things for reaching a client. So this would be for an advisor, what they should include.
I can go. I mean, if they go back to the last training as well that I just did, all the assets are there for you guys to take, model it, modify it. Like I said, it has to be clear on what you do. It has to be brief. It can't be 500 words. It has to be ideally 100 words or less. It has to raise the stakes. You got to be like, it has to raise the stakes. Like they're in a high stakes situation. It has to be economical with some credibility and proof about who you are and what you help do. And it has to be actionable. Like you have to ask them something to do something, right? Like I talked about before, like raising the stakes. When I talked about that, that's a piece of leverage that you have. Like, hey, let's say you already talked about, hey, we help fintech business owners sell their businesses at the highest valuation possible. And you give them some information about what's going on in the fintech space and some deals you've done. Well, what if you said, hey, happy to share some insights around what we're seeing in the fintech space, and then go from there. Does next Thursday work for a phone call at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Friday? So clear, simple, raise the stakes, economical, actionable. That's my advice. If you guys want to get the word for word, go look at the LinkedIn scripts. That's what I got.
And I can touch on what Matt said too, is that I wouldn't worry as much about the content, but I would focus a ton of time and energy on the headline, because that's so important. Mm-hmm. It's just like actually getting them to open their inbox in the first place and read through.
I could say what Matt said, I think is spot on, and Eve definitely with the opens. So many people botch that with the headline. But when we're doing this for our clients, we're watching. I think like Matt will obviously is watch your open rates. If something's off, then you want to adjust that headline. You want to constantly watch that to make sure that you're hitting the numbers that you need to hit on the outreach. Going back to the four spears that we see working really well, good old fashioned drop notes and snail mail, right? That's one in this industry that people do. They like it. We did a lunch and learn where we walked through the exact format. kind of like what Matt is saying, keep it stupid simple, give your value prop, make it easy to reach out. Make sure that you have the right format and the right messaging on those snail mails, because those owners might just put that in their desk and 4 years later call you back, especially if you follow up that snail mail with a nurturing campaign and they see your messaging between the time of receiving that first snail mail and when they actually take it out of the desk and give you a call.
Killer. We got another question from Mike, is how many emails should I use in a nurture cycle and at what cadence? Were you thinking, maybe Adam, if you're on the stage right now, do you have what's your suggestions there?
It's different for everybody. Again, watching your numbers, making sure that what you're sending is not hurting your brand, but helping your brand. The worst thing that you can do is kill your brand, right? By being overly aggressive, by sending emails that aren't landing, by losing your prospect, because this is a one-time transaction. So, for us, for an advisor, we coach on the nurturing, right? So we'll take all of our prospects and we'll help get you set up for your newsletter. We'll coach you how to do it. But at the end of the day, I think at least the intro for a newsletter for an advisor, that intro piece, that first paragraph, ideally should be your voice. You can have the rest done by VAs, by your team. Maybe that goes out once a week. Maybe it goes out once a month for an advisor. It depends on whether you're willing to sit down and take the half hour to write a valuable intro. If you're not, don't force it. You don't want to burn your brand.
Jason, what's your thoughts on that as far as thanks, Adam?
Yeah, typically the one that we're rolling for our clients is a 4 email campaign. It's not that aggressive. It's 4 emails over the course of 2 weeks. The first email is a lead magnet. The second email is some further value. Could be sending people to a blog, could be a video of sorts, just to further increase that credibility. And then in the third one, we're pushing for that engagement, whether it's booking a meeting in a Calendly link or purchasing on site, whatever it may be. And then the fourth one's kind of the win back email. So just further getting that engagement. And that fourth email happens about a week after the third email. And then typically we have that newsletter that's going out just to stay top of mind with those prospects.
Killer. That's pretty detailed. That's nice. Thanks, Jason. That's a good answer. The other question we have, we got a couple coming in here, which is great. So for someone that's launching their exit/M&A practice, what should be your best advice for a great start? Does anyone want to put their hand up for that? Best advice for starting? And I can kind of jump in on it too afterwards, but even any business, regardless, I think, what's the best advice for starting?
I think, I'm biased, right? But something like BizNexus Concierge or Outflow, where you're clearly going after your prospects and letting them know who you are. And again, sorry, Jason, Eve, I just think starting with those spears before you go spend a lot of time and money on something like SEO, make sure you get those pistons firing. When we take on new clients, we'll start with your brand just to make sure that it's good enough. So there aren't any red flags where if we bring them to your front door, we want them to walk in, you want to convert. So base level website, landing pages, make sure your online presence is set. But after that, zero in on who your prospects are and ramp up, get in front of them and start getting those touch points, because it is so competitive with all of these buyers who have come into the market, and they're all doing this. So the sooner you can get a good program in place to start getting in front of those end target prospects and the referral prospects, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's killer advice, because the sooner you can get on the phone with a potential prospect and learn what their actual needs are in that niche industry that you've decided to operate in, then the better, right? Education, I think, start with education for sure. So if you're moving into the exit planning space, then get a SEPA designation. If you're moving into the M&A space, then you can go and get a CMA, or you can, if you're lower market, you can get a CBI from the IBBA. But that education gives you the foundation for start. And then I think the biggest advice that I would have, which has been a mistake that I've made here in the last few years, is not niching down enough. So it's like, don't be nervous to really go deep in the niche, because then you can specifically target it and you can outcompete the competitors out there that are more broad.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, to add to that, I'd say best known wins over best product. It's just what it is. Like if everybody, let's say you're in whatever, New York, or let's say specialize in a specific sector, if they just can't stop talking, like who's the person that asked that question? What's their name?
This was from Jimmy.
Good. So everyone's like, let's say he specializes in fintech. I keep using fintech. Let's use pest control. It changed back up again.
Yeah.
Man, like everyone's like, this Jimmy guy, like who is this cat? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody keeps talking about Jimmy in the pest control space whenever a conversation gets brought up around exiting. So best known beats best product. In my eyes, at least, that's my belief. I think we can over engineer like being, the best of the best. Like no one's ever going to be the best. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always an innovation constantly happening. Another philosophical thing. It's like turning the lights on your car in the morning. If you're getting up nice and early, you want to get to wherever you're trying to go to. You can't see it, but when you turn the lights on and as you start driving, the information will reveal itself. So not overthinking what's going to happen in the future. Just know where you want to go and the information will reveal itself. Thirdly, yes, I think direct outreach, pick up the phone, have a conversation. It's human to human, everything. Even the marketing now needs to be more humanized. And thank God I just decided to do video now because like at least people can see and hear me. But like everyone's going more towards automation. And I think we need to that's the differentiator is being more of an individual. And that's why you see like these people that are just like, they're not very automated or technical in their organization. And they're very like manual BD focused, which BD is business development. And they're just killing it. Do you guys see those people? You're like, man, how's that person? But it's because like, they don't know any better. They're just like manual BD, like shaking hands, kissing babies, making phone calls. I think it's a spear. It's a direct outreach. I love it. It's fast. It's quick.
I want to piggyback on what Matt and Adam are both saying, and the referral network starting out from scratch, like building referrals. We joined the BNI locally. It's been great for us. Also joining a ton of different types of communities out there. Even Facebook groups are huge as well. Just being that subject matter expert in whatever group you're in or whatever niche you're in. One of the mistakes I made in my business is I never niched. So we're kind of like, we service everybody, which is a blessing and a curse. Blessing because there's abundance of business, but a curse because, I mean, you have like people that are specific in certain industries that are the go-to for digital marketing. So that's the benefit of niching if your market is kind of saturated. But I think definitely the referrals have been huge. And it's also having a great referral program for those prospects as well. We have a ton of great referral partners that send us tons of business and they get, handsomely compensated for it. So that's another way to do it as well.
Killer. Okay, we're a little bit past the clock here and over time, but Michael Snyder has a good. So Roxanne has a question. Matt, are your emails being sent from CRM or a provider like Mailchimp? And we'll quickly hit that one, and then there's a nice one for ending off here from Michael. But what are you using for your mail outs?
It's a mixture of both. So you want to make sure it's set up with a real email, not just sent through a server like Mailchimp. You can use a lot of different email automation tools, Growth Genius, Lemlist, which is what Adam noted. Replyify, Outreach.io. So go Google anything like that. You don't want to use like this general server. When it comes to direct outreach, that is. We use MailChimp for our newsletters, but when it's direct outreach, you want to use coming from a real email, from an email automation solution like those ones I just listed.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. I'm sure Matt's seen this too, but the amount of advisors who come in and they've tried one of these tools, like they're out spending a ton of money with somebody, like Jason or Eve, branding, trying to bring in traffic to their domain company, like xyz.com. And then they're sending out a ton of cold emails from that domain. And just, it happens all the time. Don't do that. Be careful, right? You want to set up a separate marketing domain, use that, and protect, if you're going to spend any money on SEO, protect your domain, protect your website.
Oh, this session, guys, this session has been absolutely killer. Thank you. I think we had a lot of attendees in it, which I'm really excited about. And then people are going to get the access to it afterwards, obviously. So there's lots of content and value they can get from it later. And Jimmy also did a big shout out to thank you for the answer to the question for getting started, because it was incredibly valuable. Just to end off and kind of round out our session, we can kind of do the last little speed round and then be on our way here. What's your vision for the future of marketing? What's the next big move? This Michael's asking, what do you think is going to happen in the next year? This is kind of future thinking, which, by the way, no one has a crystal ball and no one can really predict, and we often always get it wrong. But what do you guys think? Like, what's the moving forward in the next year, 2 years? What's happening in marketing? We'll just go down the line here quickly. Jason?
Yeah, I think something Matt touched on earlier, which is super important, is people are becoming numb to automation. Right. I think that's huge. And I think really building out those personal connections with people is going to be super important as people see those automations happening and they actually want to communicate with a real person. So I think building real authentic connections is huge. And whether you do that through the means of, personally, going out and networking or even creating a podcast, which is another great way to do that, where people can actually see you engaging and people can have a Q&A with you after. I've had so many conversations with people that have been podcast listeners, and little do I know they've been listening to my podcast forever and now became a client naturally, just because we already had that sort of connection without me even knowing about it. So definitely, I think reducing the automation and just being real and being human.
Killer. Eve, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, just to echo a lot of what the guys are saying, because they're so spot on, is I think it's that personalization and that authentic. It's like Jason took my answer. I'm like, oh, that's what I was going to say too. But it's just really understanding, niching down, and spending time getting to know your customer. Like, as much as a lot of stuff's becoming automated now, I can't agree with Matt more, is that you really need to, like, sometimes just like picking up the phone and talking to somebody, learning what they need, learning what their problems are. I think that's going to continue to help you break through the noise, and then personalizing your business, your marketing, your message, and your service around that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Eve. Adam, what changes in the future, you think, marketing moving forward in a year and a half?
I think just the value voices will stand out. It's just so noisy. The more you can focus on value, niche down, focus on providing value. That's how you're going to win. These platforms will pop up and flame out. One day LinkedIn is yielding tremendous results. The next day, they change the algorithm, they change something. That's not the case. So making sure that you're engaged with all the channels that matter, and you can double down, triple down on the ones that are working really well at any given time, but just staying on top of that.
Awesome. Thank you. Matt, thoughts on future?
Yeah, I'm on board with everyone. I think personalization at scale, and that comes from both reaching out and then also following up. Here's an example. You send out a cold email to somebody, you get a call secured, you connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a personal note. Hey, Bob, thanks for scheduling a call. Wanted to connect here in the meantime. You're then researching them. You then have that dialogue with them. Like, it's everywhere, guys. It's from sourcing new opportunities, and also as you're having that sales conversation, everything has to be more personalized, has to be more focused. And the good news is that technology is actually giving us access to do that easier. Okay. So that's how we have to use it. And like Adam just said, just use the platforms. Like, that's all that, like, they're going to change. There's always gonna be something new. So use it and focus on that kind of key point that we're all making, which is like, find ways to leverage technology to create personalization at scale.
Leverage technology for personalization at scale. Thanks again. I can't thank you. Jason, Eve, Adam, Matt, thank you for being part of 10X Live. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom with everybody. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've enjoyed it a lot, and we're getting wow, thanks, great roundtable, thanks is great. So we're getting a lot of really positive feedback in the chat box, and what people know where to connect you. If you're in the members area, everyone's information is in the members area, so you can check that out. And we'll be uploading this video there as well. Tomorrow morning, we will be diving deep into how to close on that first deal and software to systemize your process to make it completely seamless. And Craig West is going to be taking us through that. They've grown their company from the smallest to the largest in Australia, New Zealand, and now almost the UK. And he's going to take us through how they've done that with their exit planning company. So really valuable information tomorrow morning. All right, guys. So that's it. That's the end of our panel. That's the end of the morning. For those that are hanging around, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back at 12:30 for the afternoon session with the owners. So much appreciated. And for those that hang around, we'll see you later. And for our panelists, have a great day.
Thanks for putting it together, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.